You wake up on a Tuesday morning, check your bank account, and feel that familiar tightness in your chest. You paid the rent on time. You didn't eat out much this week. You transferred money into savings like you promised yourself you would. You've been working hard, maybe harder than ever. So why do you still feel broke? Not can't afford groceries broke, not crisis mode, but that quiet, constant feeling that you're behind. Like no matter how responsible you are, the finish line keeps moving. If you've ever felt that, I want you to know something right away. You're not crazy, and you're not bad with money. There's a reason so many people feel broke even when they're technically doing everything right. And it has less to do with math and more to do with psychology. Most of us were taught a very simple formula: work hard, make money. Spend less than you earn, save the rest. If you follow those rules, you're supposed to feel stable, secure, maybe even proud. But nobody talks about the emotional gap between effort and visible progress. You can be paying your bills on time, contributing to your retirement account, avoiding debt, and still feel like you're barely moving. Because financially responsible doesn't always feel financially successful, and that disconnect messes with your head. Part of the problem is expectation. We grow up seeing highlight reels of wealth: big houses, early retirements, investment wins, six-figure milestones that get thrown around like they're normal. So even if you're making steady progress, it doesn't feel impressive. It feels average. And average in today's culture feels like failure. But here's something most people don't realize. Money progress is painfully slow at the beginning. If you're building an emergency fund, the first $1,000 takes real sacrifice. You notice every dollar you don't spend, every night you stay in, every small decision, and what do you get in return? A number sitting in a savings account. No applause, no lifestyle upgrade, no visible transformation. Just a slightly bigger buffer. When you invest, it's even less dramatic. You put money into an index fund, maybe something that tracks the overall market. You hear about compound interest, about how over time it grows exponentially, but in the early years, it doesn't feel exponential. It feels flat. You check the account and it's up a little, then down a little, then up again, and you think, that's it? You're doing the right thing. But emotionally, it feels underwhelming. There's a psychological concept called hedonic adaptation. It basically means we get used to improvements faster than we expect. You get a raise. For a month, it feels amazing. Then it becomes normal. Your brain recalibrates. You move into a slightly better apartment. At first, it feels like progress. Then it's just home. So even when your financial life improves, your emotional baseline resets, and suddenly the thing that once felt like relief now feels like the bare minimum. Another layer to this is invisible expenses. Not just bills, mental bills. You carry the weight of future responsibilities: retirement, healthcare, supporting family, unexpected emergencies, rising costs. Even if today is handled, tomorrow is whispering in your ear. What if this isn't enough? What if I fall behind? What if something goes wrong? That constant background anxiety can make a stable financial situation feel fragile. And when something feels fragile, it feels like scarcity. There's also the comparison trap. Maybe your coworker just bought a new car. Maybe someone you went to school with just posted about buying a house. Maybe your feed is full of people talking about passive income streams and early retirement. You're sitting there thinking, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Why does it feel like everyone else is sprinting ahead? But here's the truth. Most financial journeys are quiet. The majority of responsible decisions don't look impressive. They look boring. Packing lunch, driving the same car another year, skipping an impulse purchase, automating a contribution to a retirement account. These choices don't create flashy moments. They create stability, and stability doesn't always feel exciting. There's also something deeper happening. When you're younger, progress feels fast because life changes fast. New job, new apartment, new relationship, new milestones. But as you move into more stable phases of life, progress becomes incremental. You're optimizing instead of transforming. And incremental progress doesn't trigger the same emotional reward. Let's say you increase your retirement contribution from 10% to 12%. Financially, that's meaningful over decades. Emotionally, it feels like nothing. 2% doesn't change your day-to-day experience. But in 25 years, it could be the difference between stress and freedom. The problem is your brain is wired for immediate feedback. It wants visible change. And long-term financial responsibility is mostly invisible. That's the psychological gap. You're making decisions today for a future version of you that doesn't exist yet. And that future version isn't sending thank you notes. So the effort feels disconnected from the reward. This is where a lot of people start questioning themselves. Am I doing enough? Should I be investing differently? Should I be taking more risks? And sometimes that anxiety pushes people into decisions that look productive but are actually reactive. Chasing higher returns without understanding the risk. Jumping into trends because slow growth feels boring. Overworking to increase income without asking what it's costing them mentally. Because when you feel broke, even if you're not, urgency creeps in. But here's the turning point. Feeling broke and being broke are not always the same thing. One is a number, the other is a perception shaped by expectations, comparison, and time horizon. If your bills are paid, you're saving consistently, and you're not drowning in high-interest debt, you're not failing, you're in the middle. And the middle is uncomfortable because it's not dramatic, it's not crisis, and it's not wealth. It's the slow build. We don't celebrate the middle enough. We glamorize the bottom as a comeback story. We glamorize the top as success. But the middle is where most responsible adults live. Working, saving, adjusting, learning, and feeling like it's never quite enough. When you understand that, something shifts. Instead of asking, why don't I feel rich yet? You start asking, am I building stability? Instead of comparing your chapter 5 to someone else's chapter 15, you focus on trajectory. Are you moving forward even slowly? Are you less stressed than you were 2 years ago? Is your emergency fund larger? Is your debt smaller? That's progress. It just doesn't scream. It whispers. And whispers are easy to ignore in a loud world. So how do you close that psychological gap? First, you redefine what doing well actually means for you. Not what social media says. Not what a random headline says. For some people, doing well means aggressive investing and scaling income. For others, it means sleeping at night without checking their bank account 5 times. Peace is a financial metric too. Second, measure progress in longer intervals. If you check your investment account every week, it will feel chaotic. If you zoom out to 5 years, you'll see a trend. Compound growth isn't exciting day to day, it's powerful over decades. The same is true for habits. Third, separate lifestyle upgrades from emotional security. A bigger paycheck doesn't automatically fix money anxiety. Sometimes it just increases expectations. If your spending rises with every raise, your baseline stress can stay exactly the same. More income without intentional structure can still feel tight. That's why automation helps so much. When savings and investing happen in the background, you're not relying on constant willpower, you're building momentum quietly. And quiet momentum is underrated. There's also something important about acknowledging effort. You are allowed to give yourself credit for being responsible. If you didn't grow up with financial education, the fact that you're learning, budgeting, investing, and thinking long-term is significant, even if your net worth doesn't look dramatic. We tend to move the goalpost every time we hit a milestone. I'll feel secure when I have 3 months of expenses saved. Then you get there and think, maybe 6 months would be better. Security becomes a moving target. At some point, you have to pause and recognize the ground you've already covered. That doesn't mean you stop improving. It means you stop dismissing your progress. Because when progress feels invisible, motivation fades. And when motivation fades, consistency gets harder. Remember, wealth for most people is built through consistency, not intensity. It's the repeated, slightly boring choice, not the once-in-a-lifetime win. If you're showing up month after month, transferring money into savings, contributing to retirement, paying down debt, even when it feels small, you're participating in a system that rewards patience. The rewards just don't show up overnight, and that's uncomfortable in a world that moves fast. So, if you feel broke right now, pause. Look at the numbers objectively. Are you covering your essentials? Are you building even a small cushion? Are you avoiding destructive financial habits you once had? If the answer is yes, you're not stuck, you're building. It might not feel dramatic. It might not feel impressive, but it's real. And real progress compounds just like money does. The gap between effort and feeling is something almost everyone experiences. The difference is whether you interpret that gap as failure or as the normal lag time between planting and harvesting. Because that's what this phase is. Planting. quietly, repeatedly, trusting that the math and the habits are working beneath the surface, even if your emotions haven't caught up yet. You don't need to feel wealthy to be on the path to wealth. You don't need constant validation to know you're moving forward. Sometimes the most responsible season of your life feels the least exciting. That doesn't make it wrong, it makes it foundational. And foundations aren't glamorous, they're stable. If no one has told you this lately, let me say it clearly. If you're trying, if you're learning, if you're making even small, consistent improvements, you're doing more right than you think. Progress with money is rarely loud. It's steady, it's subtle. It's months and years of decisions that don't look impressive individually, but together create something solid. So don't confuse calm with failure. Don't confuse slow with stuck. And don't confuse feeling broke with actually being behind. Sometimes you're just in the middle of the build, and the middle is where strength is formed. Keep going. Not perfectly, just consistently. Because in the long run, consistency feels a lot different than it does today. And one day you'll look back at this season, the one that felt slow and invisible, and realize it was the exact moment everything started compounding in your favor.